so we'll get going. This evening is about giving you a little bit of insight into the Postgraduate Certificate here at Tangent, what it's about, who it's for, what you should expect to get out of it, who should apply, all those kinds of things. So I'll take you through a presentation and we have a panel. We're very lucky to be joined this evening by a panel that includes Jess Hayden, who is the academic lead for Module 1 of this course. She's also the CEO and founder of Elan Vital, which is a consultancy that specializes in coaching and training for people looking to develop their career. So thanks so much, Jess, for joining us this evening. We're also lucky to have Colin Flynn, who is a recent graduate of the course and the class rep for the Tipperary cohort that just finished their course there in April this year. So we're going to hear a little from Colin later on this evening, which will be fantastic, seeing it from a student's perspective. So thanks a million, Colin, for joining us as well. And we also have Rachel Delaney, who is both a past student and has since gone on to become the program coordinator for this course in Tangent. So coming at it from both sides as the student and the coordinator and mentor, Rachel's insights will be really valuable. So thanks so much, Rachel, for joining us this evening. So I'm going to kick off with the presentation. We'll hear from our great panel, and then there will be questions and answers where you can pop your questions into the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll get them there, and we'll deal with those questions and answers towards the latter part of this evening's session. Okay, so to get going, so it is now open on the Springboard website for application. It's a level 9 qualification, and for those applying, the deadline is the 3rd of September if you are in receipt of that level 8 honours degree, and for anybody that is applying as a recognised prior learner, the deadline is the 27th of August. We'll touch on that a little bit later on again. Okay. So why does this course exist? Why would you do this course, the postgrad in innovation and enterprise development? Well, it was designed with the idea of addressing the skills gap by turning ideas into solutions. When I say the skills gap, I'm referring to in 2016, the World Economic Forum predicted that 60% of the jobs in 2020 didn't yet exist. In 2017, Dell predicted that 85% of the jobs in 2030 didn't yet exist. And in 2018, the World Economic Forum of the Future of Jobs report predicted that by 2022, no less than 54% of all employees would require significant reskilling and upskilling. So what can you do? Well, this certificate is a really practical way of tackling that. And it deals with skills such as, in 2020, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation and cognitive flexibility. So these are the top 10 skills predicted that we as professionals need in 2020. Moving on. So innovation and entrepreneurship at Trinity. If we look at the innovation first, Trinity is first in Europe for patent citations. We have 500 industry partnerships in the last 5 years, which have resulted in 100 million in annual research income. And we have had 140 licenses in the last 5 years. So a few examples of innovation at Trinity. When we look at entrepreneurship, we are ranked first in Europe for graduate entrepreneurship. We have 100 campus companies that have generated 300 products and 1.4 billion in revenue. And we have had 75 student companies in the last 5 years that have raised 1 million in investment. When you bring innovation and entrepreneurship together, we can imagine by identifying new opportunities, collaborate by using the power of diversity, and take action by having a positive impact on the world. The aim of this course is to empower students to translate creative and innovative ideas into products, services, and policies for commercial, social, and cultural benefit. Students will learn to be innovative and entrepreneurial in their approach to problem solving and to addressing national and international industrial and societal issues. So you might ask, who is this course for? It is for employed professionals who are seeking continual professional development, individuals with a business idea, individuals looking to update their skills to reflect a changing workplace, which is more important now than ever. It's for those seeking a change in career direction, for those seeking to create their own employment opportunities, and for individuals seeking to expand their skills base with a view to returning to the workforce. And what does this course offer? Well, it offers a level 9 qualification from Trinity College. It offers a unique combination of transferable and entrepreneurial skills, teamworking, presentation, communication, and leadership skills, the skills to start up or develop a business, opportunity recognition, business planning, funding, intellectual property, and a range of entrepreneurship development supports within Trinity. How the program works? Well, the program runs for about 24 weeks from the 12th of October to the 16th of April. It is delivered 2 nights a week from 6 to 8 p.m. So at the moment, and this is not all written in stone as yet, but at the moment we're looking to have the 3 cohorts, so the 3 regions, Dublin, Athlone and Wexford, online on a Monday evening together. And on Tuesday evenings, we'll have the Athlone and Wexford regions online together. And then on Wednesdays, there will be Dublin. So 2 nights per week. The course outline, so there's 3 modules that are delivered. The first one is innovation and creativity. The second is opportunity generation, recognition, and communication. And the third being enterprise development. The teaching and learning styles of this course. Well, with adult learners, we adopt the experiential learning environment. We have workshops, masterclasses, group projects, and presentations. Students will work in teams on real industry projects hosted by private or public enterprise partners. There are no exams, but there will be reports, presentations, case studies, research, some reflective work, and also there will be an opportunity for really great peer-to-peer learning. The program outcomes. Well, you should see, students should be able to see that they can develop an entrepreneurial mindset, work in a multidisciplinary team, learn to recognize opportunities, learn to communicate your ideas more effectively, understand how to protect your intellectual property, add value to an organization with innovative thinking, and stand out in a competitive employment landscape. We want to empower you to think independently, to act responsibly, to develop continuously, and to communicate effectively. You will learn by doing, with real industry projects, tackling challenges for organizations, whether they be public, private, startup, multinational, government, or cultural enterprises. You will learn to apply the design thinking techniques in practice. You'll understand the iterative process, learning from failure and failing forward, and you will be working on teamwork, leadership, compromise, and persuasion skills. These are just some of the stakeholder engagement that we've had so far in this course. And this engagement has been in the way of expert seminars, workshops, and panel discussions, and host projects. So you can see quite a diverse range of companies that we have had engagement with on this course before. And moving on. So who is eligible for this course? Well, graduates who hold that level 8 honours degree, that honours qualification, for graduates in receipt of an eligible social welfare payment, for those that are self-employed or in employment, and if so, a 10% fee applies, which is €300 in this case. If you've been a resident in the EU for 3 of the last 5 years prior to applying for the course, there will be places for RPL candidates, recognition of prior learning. We touched on that earlier. And they need to apply 1 week earlier, so by the 27th of August as opposed to the 3rd of September. And finally, we have returners, those that have been out of the workplace due to caring obligations. Perhaps they're not on any kind of social welfare payment. If so, they must sign a declaration document. Things to consider. Well, the eligibility criteria is all listed on the Springboard website. Please have a review of that or check in with me if you're not sure about any of the eligibility criteria. The schedule, does it work for you? We want you to be online 100% of the time. It's really important, especially considering that you're going to be working in groups and you know, there is a significant work involved. The time commitment. Do you have childcare or other obligations? Can your employer release you for the duration of the online class commitments? And then also, this is a third level postgraduate academic program. So as I say, there will be report writing, presentations, research, teamwork. So these are just things to consider before applying for the course. The application process. Again, the closing dates, the 3rd of September for level 8s, the 27th of August for RPL candidates. You apply online and all documents must be uploaded to Springboard, springboardcourses.ie. The documents required are the expression of interest, which should be approximately 500 words. And if you are applying as an RPL candidate, you should mention this in the expression of interest or the statement of interest. The curriculum vitae, and that should show how your skills and experience match up to the course. A copy of your level 8 honours degree, if you do have that. Your eligibility details, whether you're fully funded, so a copy of a recent payment slip for job seekers or some payment that you're receiving, or evidence that you're self-employed or in employment and the 10% fee comes in there. And then finally, 2 references on headed paper. So they can be 1 academic and 1 professional, or 2 professional, but they should really speak to why you would be a good candidate for the course. So that's the last slide. I would say any questions regarding the application process itself, direct them to me at springboard@tcd.ie, or you can give me a call on that number. It's all over Springboard as well. But if it's to do with individual questions regarding am I eligible, or I don't have this, or you know, you're better off giving me a shout and I can deal with you one-on-one on those. But we'll go to Jess perhaps now and get a little bit of background on the course from her, maybe a little bit of oversight on module 1, maybe why choose this course over other courses, how is this different perhaps to other courses that deal in innovation and enterprise development. So if we go to you, Jess, if you don't mind, yeah. And then we can take questions in a few minutes time.
Great. Okay, thank you, Jane, and welcome everybody. It's I can't quite see you, but I know you're out there, so it's great. Thank you for making the time to join us tonight. So yeah, my name is Jess Hayden, and I'm the academic lead for Module 1, which will be the first module, obviously, that you'll do if you participate in this program. I've been teaching on programs like this in UCD and Trinity, DCU, NUIG, and Athlone IT and Carlo IT for a good few years now, and I do think this one is unique, and the reason why is because we have decided that to do this online, we should really decide what can you do online that you can't do in person. So all of the content that we'll cover has been specifically thought through to make sure we make the best use possible of the fact that everybody's dialing in from different places. So that's one of the first things that we've really taken the time to do that. And one of the things that we'll be doing is we'll be mixing up the content to ensure that you explore it as an individual, you explore it as a team, so there'll be lots of group work, and then you explore it as well in the context of an organization. And really, if you take something like innovation as a concept, and you explore it for yourself, you explore it within a team, and then you explore it within an organization, that's a really, really robust way of building your understanding about innovation. So that's how the content will be delivered. A few other things as well to say about it. I've been teaching Springboard programs now for I think 5 years, maybe 4 years, and the thing that people say about this program is that it really changes their thinking. It completely shifts their mindset. We ask you questions like, what is creativity? Who can be creative? How are you creative? What is innovation? How does innovation change the world? And what part can you play in that? And these are questions that people have said when they do this program. Once you turn this on, you can't turn it off again. You start seeing opportunity everywhere. So if you're dialing in here because you're thinking maybe one day you'll set up a business, if you're dialing in because maybe you're joining the workforce for the first time, or you're thinking of rejoining it, or maybe you work for an organization but you want to make change there, this is the right place to be, because all of the content that we'll cover will help you to make change and create what it is that you want to create with whatever your kind of personal situation is. So there'll be 3 modules on the course. It runs from October to April. Jane has already said that it's quite a bit of work. Thinking about the kind of commitment you want to make is really important, because it's 2 evenings a week that you will have to be there, and you can't replace that. So you do have to participate in those evenings each week. But in between that as well, there's group work. As I said, you'll explore the content for yourself, but you'll also explore it within your team. And therefore, you need to have time set aside as well to be able to participate in that group work. So it is, you know, there is some work involved outside of the kind of online hours, but it's a level 9 program. So that's the reason why that's there. We need to prove that you can work independently on these different topics in order to be assessed at level 9. So just to talk a little bit about the content, in the first module, which I would be taking you for, we're talking all about creativity and innovation. So the kind of key learning outcomes are that you will learn how to creatively problem solve for a wicked problem, something that nobody else has managed to solve yet. You learn about different modes of innovation. Innovation isn't just those big disruptive innovations that we all hear about. You can have micro innovations, like things that happen in hospitals where really, really small changes in behavior can save lives. And we'll also talk about how to map a problem so you understand every aspect of it from lots of different perspectives. And that gives you the opportunity then to solve it from many different ways. So all these tools, they can be used again and again in lots of different contexts. And I think that's the real beauty of this program is once you get this skill set and you start using it, you won't really be able to stop yourself. Curiosity will just be switched on in your head, and most people have said that they can't really turn it off again after that. So the other thing I suppose we'll focus on really is creativity in innovation and in organizations. It never happens on its own. It never happens with just one person. It always happens in a team, and that requires collaboration. So you're probably going to learn more about yourself and your teammates than you ever would in any other kind of program that you'll do. But it's really, really, really important. The one thing the research tells us is if the more innovative stuff always comes from diverse groups of people. So the more diversity within a group, the more different types of thinking there are, the better the solution that a group will come up with. So we have to be able to manage that diversity and listen to each other, learn how to communicate, especially when we don't agree and maybe we don't have the same value base. And those are things we'll explore as well in analysing team formation, how groups work effectively together. And we'll also talk a little bit, we'll borrow from sports psychology to talk about high performance teams and what does it take to perform at your very best. And I particularly love that area myself. I'm a psychologist, and we'll at the end of module 1 we'll talk a little bit about your personal performance stories. So yeah, I suppose I kind of want to check in with people and see maybe where you're calling in from, if that's okay. And I think we have a poll ready to, and I'm not quite sure who's going to do that for us. Can Jane do the poll? But we just wanted to hear from people who are on the call. Where are you and where are you dialing in from? Because it gives us a kind of an idea as to what to expect. So I'm not sure if somebody else can get the poll going.
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting for the poll, we have another question, and this is one that you can respond to in the chat box. So if you look down on the bottom bar, you should be able to find a chat box. And within that, then you should be able to ask a question. But the question that we have for you is, why are you interested? What has brought you here to this panel discussion on this program today? So it can be absolutely any reason. It can be that you're bored. It could be that you saw it, you've always wanted to do it. Yeah, so I see a question in there from Sung-Hwan Cho, but we'll come back to that, I think, in the Q&As.
Yeah, that's an eligibility question, and we can come back to that later. Or, as I say, anything to do with eligibility, you can contact me directly. I can talk to you about that.
Oh, great. So there's somebody here who's responded that they'd like to build a network here in Ireland. Desiree, I think. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Desiree. This is the perfect opportunity to do that. So first of all, you're very welcome. And one of the key things that we'll do is you'll build a real community with your group in your class, basically. And that won't be just your local class, whether you're calling in from Athlone, Wexford or Dublin, but it'll be the wider class as well. So that's one thing, you'll get to know all those people. And because everybody who's doing the program has so much experience, most of the time we find people are returning to work maybe after having a long career, or somebody might be changing career and so on. We find that there's loads of experience in the class and people share that. And it's a really great way to build your network. But in addition to that, then you also have the entire Tangent and the entire Trinity network available to you once you've done this. So I think that, Desiree, that's a fabulous reason for wanting to do the program. Aisling is saying, I want to tap into the innovative part of my brain. Brilliant, Aisling. I love that, because it is there. It is in everybody. One of the fabulous things we know about the brain is everybody has the propensity to learn their whole lives. And we all have the propensity to be creative and be innovative. And as you say, we just kind of have to tap into it. So definitely, I think on this program, especially in Module 1, what we try to do is turn that on, give you tools that you can start thinking about things differently, do divergent thinking and problem solving. And then you get to do that for a host project with an organization that gives you a problem to solve. And then you get to do that in another industry project later on. So thanks for that, Aisling. Akwan Malta, and again, apologies if I've pronounced that wrong. Because some things as a designer, I have many ideas, but to bring ideas to life is difficult. Oh, this is great reason to be here. A key thing we'll do is talk about prototyping. So how do you get your idea out of your head and into the world so that you can get feedback from people? And a key thing in that is actually the psychology around getting feedback on something that you've created yourself. It can be a really difficult thing to do, because those things that we create are our babies. So getting feedback on our babies is difficult, but we have lots of lovely tools and ways to do that, that once you get used to it, you start getting your ideas out to the world faster for feedback. So that's great reason as well, again, for being there. Marianne is saying, hi, nice to meet you, and thanks for the great presentation. I'm interested in the course. Oh, you're occupational therapist, interesting. Looking to branch out into consulting. Okay. Oh, wow, very, very interesting. Okay, so you're trying to bridge the gap between clinical and developing new products or services. So this is a really, really interesting one, because I'd say lots of other people will have a particular field of expertise or experience in a particular area. And want to maybe see, well, what could I do with this? Is there a business I can develop based on what I know? And what we would do with that kind of thinking is probably try to identify, first of all, what are the problems that aren't being solved in this area right now? And so not try and develop solutions. We will focus just on problems, and then we'll really refine those problems so as we understand exactly what they are. We'll think about all the different perspectives on a problem, all the different angles we could go at it. And then finally, when we understand as much as we can about the problems, let's say in occupational therapy, what could we do about them? We could generate solutions together. And this is where it can be really great to bring in different perspectives. So different fields of expertise collaborating together to generate solutions. So again, I think, Marianne, that would be a really interesting thing for you to sink your teeth into on this program. Robert is saying the ability to think creatively. I wish to nurture and I want to understand how to bring ideas successfully forward within a large organization. Okay, to gain traction and buy-in. And that's again, really, really interesting. So innovating on your own, starting a business from scratch is one thing, but innovating within an organization that's already pointed in a particular direction is an entirely different thing. But actually, some of the same skill sets can help in those two different scenarios, especially about user-centered design. So really understanding the problems that an organization is facing and designing solutions that will fit with where they're at. This is a key thing in user-centered design, is that we really we design solutions for people where there's a low barrier to entry, and they can start doing something differently straight away. So again, those are tools that we would cover in the program. So that's another great reason, Robert. So thank you everybody for posting up those reasons. They're all very interesting, fabulous, and I'd love to dig into them a bit more, but I don't want to eat up too much time. And I think, Jane, you probably have a plan for the rest of the call. So I'll stop talking.
Nope. Not at all. It's a joy listening to you. It's so easily explained and clear. So thanks so much, Jess. I guess we'd like to hear from everybody on the panel this evening. So Colm, might you give us an insight into why you chose this course, and maybe did it meet your expectations? Were you able to implement the skills you learned in a real scenario? And what would you say to somebody thinking about doing this course?
Okay, a few questions. I'll try and cover them as we go through it. For me, I was coming at it where I had over 20 years experience in the workplace, working for multinationals and SMEs. But and while that career had been satisfying, and I was at managerial level and that, I wasn't actually fully satisfied. And I always had a desire to try and do something myself. But I never thought that I could, because I had all these business ideas that would come up every now and then. I said, oh, there's an opportunity there, but I never knew how to actually bring that to fruition. And I'd look at something and say, well, I'm not an engineer, so I can't invent something, or I'm not a software designer, so I'm not going to make the next Facebook. Or I'm not even a tradesman, I can't go out as a sole trader. So really, am I the type of person who could be an entrepreneur and could set up? I'd like to be, but I didn't think I could. And this course really did fill that gap and give me the confidence to actually say, yes, I can, because realistically, anybody can. I had applied for another course actually up in Dublin and been accepted onto it. And that would have involved me going up 2 or 3 nights a week up to Dublin, which was really not practical because I live near Clonmel. I did it in the Tipperary group, as was said earlier. So an associate of mine actually said to me, there's a postgrad coming up in Tipperary town with Trinity, and I went, oh, really, Tip Town, is that, how real is that? Because it's, nothing ever happens in Tipperary town. But I went along to the open night and came out very reassured that this, this was something that ticked a lot of boxes. First of all, of course, it was a genuine postgrad, and all the scare tactics that were put up here about, you've got to apply yourself and 100% attendance, they were all given to us. So we knew what we were facing into. So I came out of it very, much aligned with the idea that this was something that ticked a lot of the boxes of what I was looking for. And of course, with Springboard, it was 90% funded for me. So I was paying €300 as opposed to 8,000 a year up in Dublin. So it was really no brainer. I applied, and thankfully I got on it. And in terms of the range of people who would go onto it, I remember going in the first night thinking, am I going to be the old man sitting in the corner with no idea, and it'll be all young Elon Musks and wannabe tech founders there? And it wasn't. It was a range of people from I think in the mid-20s to, we'll say, mid-60s, and I hope I didn't insult anybody. Complete range of people in that age spectrum. In terms of experience, we had some people who actually had their own businesses at the time. We had some people who had business ideas that they wanted to bring through as a company. And we had a lot of people like myself who wanted to change, didn't have a business idea, but wanted to actually do something that would change their lives, really, or maybe change the companies that they worked for. So it was that spectrum of people. And I would say we were lucky in that the first module we had was in person. The COVID-19 only hit us really in module 3, when we were over, everything had moved online anyway. But the first module we got to meet. I understand that this is now all online, but I would encourage people, if you can, meet up as much as possible in your localities, meet up as a group and build that network, because it's that network that really will see you through this course. It's difficult, any postgrad is, but when you're working together as a group, that support network will guide you through it and will bring you through the low points, because there will be low points, and you'll bring people in the class through when they have low points. So I really enjoyed the class, and like I said, it was a range of people, a range of experiences, from farmers to teachers to business owners, a range of ages, there was even people who had masters and people who had only gotten their leaving cert. So it really covered all that spectrum. So if you're what I would say is, if you're thinking about doing this course, you can do this course. Okay, so don't be afraid of anything in that. For me, what did I get out of it? Well, I've gone from being an employee to being a sole trader at the moment, and hopefully being an employer in a few years. I decided, and I was in a lucky position personally and career-wise that I could do this. I decided to actually take the leap and go out and set myself up initially as a consultant and training service, as being kind of business idea 1. But I also have a couple of other business ideas that I'm working at as a co-founder with other people. One of which we actually brought into Enterprise Ireland New Frontiers Phase 1, just finished up a few weeks ago. We're looking at bringing it into Phase 2. We have a bit of work to do to actually get it ready for Phase 2. But if you had told me a year ago, or even if you told me 6 months ago, that I would have a company that was actually going into an Enterprise Ireland funded and supported incubator kind of environment, I would have said not a chance. I don't have any skill set that's going to do that. But now I do, and it's thanks to this course. Now that's not to say that that's going to happen for everybody. Like I said, I was looking at the professional and career and personal styles kind of aligned to allow me to do that. You may find that you want to do it because you want to do it within your existing company. So there's an entrepreneur and there's an entrepreneur. So you can actually bring this innovative thinking and innovative ways of approaching business to your existing company. And it can be a great benefit there. And you could find that it boosts your career without having to make the major changes that I did. And I'd say of the group that I had, only 2 or 3 out of the 20 odd that were in Tipperary, only 2 or 3 have actually made a kind of a step change in their career. The rest of them are all building on what they already had. So it facilitates the range of potential objectives as well. What else would I say on this? I think in terms of the idea of, the skill set that I got, one of the things that I would say as well is, when you're starting off, even if you have a business idea, one of the daunting things is, I don't know where to begin to set up a business. I was in a situation where I was starting off, I had, like I said, a couple of business ideas, but neither the confidence nor the knowledge to do it. This course closed both of those gaps. So I knew what was involved in actually setting up a company, and since then I've set up 2 companies myself. One of them because I got the name wrong of the company name, so I've 2 registered companies with the CRO. But and then I've been involved in the setup of another 2 startups. That one of them, like I said, is with New Frontiers. But I wouldn't have done any of that before the course. I wouldn't have known where to begin to do that, and this course gave me that skill set. I think as well that it also taught me that I handed in my notice at work on the 8th of January, 2 months notice. I became self-employed on the 9th of March. And over that 2-month period, I had built up a number of clients that I was confident I could get some business with. And 1 week later, the world shut down. So I ended up with no clients and no business. But one of the things that this course taught me as well was how to pivot, how to change, how to adapt. So I've actually won, just a couple of weeks ago, I won a project with a client doing something that, again, even 3 months ago, I would have thought, not in my skill set, not in the services that I offer. But because this course has taught me to think creatively, adapt and change and pivot, I've been able to do that. I've been able to change over, and I've won that contract just a couple of weeks ago. So again, it's down to the skill set and the confidence that this course gives you. So really, I think that's a very long-winded way of explaining my journey, but it all boils down to A, having the desire to do it, B, applying myself to it, and then having actually the structure in place that Tangent and Trinity gave me through this course. And I probably had 1 and 2, but never had number 3. And that's what actually what the course gave me. So I'm delighted with it. It exceeded every one of my expectations. If you're thinking of doing it, you're not going to lose out by doing it.
A wonderful success story. Thanks so much, Colin, for sharing all of that. That's amazing. And it's worth saying here as well that, what you put into this course, you get out. And Colin, you really embraced everything that all of what the course was about. You were with the class rep for Tipperary. And the more you put in, the more you will get out, so it's really on that individual person-to-person basis.
Definitely, and I'd add to that there's a lot of supports that Tangent actually provide outside of the course. So during the COVID lockdown and the fact that I didn't have clients that I needed to fulfill projects for at the time, there was Tangent TV, which was like a tutorial session where they would delve in depth once a week into one of the topics that we had covered in the lectures. And there's other webinars and things that are online. I'm not sure are you planning to do those next year. I would say that at the very least, the people who would do the course should be directed to look at those online because they're great, particularly ones about the Techstars toolkit and lean business canvas, all the things you'll hear about in the next few months. It goes into more detail in those, and it allows you to kind of focus and drill down into that in a little bit more detail than you can in the actual lectures when you're covering a wide range of topics that week. But I would strongly recommend that. Yeah, it is what you get out of it, what you put into it, but you find that if you put more into it, there's actually the facilities there with Trinity and with Tangent to make sure you get the reward for that extra bit you put into it.
Excellent. We might hear from Rachel Delaney. Rachel, you're coming from the really very interesting perspective of having been a student on the course. So maybe you might tell us a little bit about that, and then a little bit about being on the other side of it as the coordinator. It's obviously a subject you have a lot of interest in. What would your words of advice be for people thinking of doing it, I guess, and what you got out of it and where you're going with it?
Yeah, it's certainly hard to follow the words of Colin because he really has put it so well. It really is a transformative process that you go through, and it's very hard to kind of quantify that and to explain it ahead of time. But certainly, if you are here and you are thinking about it, make that decision and go for it. I would have taken part in it the year before, Colin, and I was part of the Limerick cohort. So again, I had the option to do a postgrad with Trinity outside of Dublin, and of course I jumped on it. And like Colin, it exceeded my expectations completely. Not only did it kind of start with the ideas and help you take it from idea to implementation, but it really equipped you with really practical tools to take to the workplace and to make changes either in your own business, in other people's business, and to see what works in industry as well. It really gives you an insight into looking at how business is done today and why things are working. And it's sort of like has been said before, once that switch has been flicked, it can't go back. And it's like you get a whole new view on the world of business. And it's a fantastic skill set to possess. And yes, I did. I stayed on then, first of all, to look after the Waterford cohort, who would have begun at the same time as Cullum. And then I took over responsibility for the entire cohort when everyone went online. Typically, module 1 would be in person, and modules 2 and 3 would be online. Obviously, now we're entirely online, but last year that's how it would have worked. So I would have looked after everybody for modules 2 and 3. So definitely, as Colin said, you do get out of it what you put into it. Colin particularly did immerse himself in all of the extra things that Tangent did make available. And absolutely, if you take advantage of the amazing peer-to-peer learning that exists with the diverse student, base that will be on this program, there's so much to be gotten from that. And we do give you the opportunity through the group work, but there's always more opportunity if you seek that out yourself. There's so much to be gotten. It's not about knowledge. It's about, learning is so much more than us just telling you the way it is, and unlocking those skills and giving you the ability to harness them is by far the most valuable thing you'll get from this program.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Rachel. And yeah, I didn't spend too much time talking about the different regions. So we have Dublin, Athlone and Wexford for this course. And what that means is anybody can apply, but we will be focusing on those areas in terms of opportunity, recognition and generation, the industries that are there, host projects that are, to do with industries that are located in those regions, and preference may be given to those who live or work in those regions. Ideally, when we applied for funding, we were hoping to have them regionally in these places, but now as we've gone online, the focus still remains on those 3 regions. However, anybody can apply. We might open it to the floor again. Has anybody any questions, anything to do with what you just heard this evening that you want to pop in the Q&A or the chat box, and we can direct them to our panel? We haven't lost anyone anyway, so. Does this course run every year? So not necessarily. We need to apply each year to Springboard for funding. And if they approve that funding, then yes, we will run it again. But that is on a year-to-year basis. Nothing is guaranteed. All we know is that we're running it now. Will we run it next year? We can't confirm as yet. Okay, the number of places. So actually with this course, we have the highest number of places available in that there's 3 regions and there's 80 places. So there are 30 in Dublin, 25 in Wexford, 25 in Athlone. And besides highlighting the fact that you want to apply with RPL, no, there's no additional form if you're RPL. Just outline the fact that you are applying as an RPL candidate in your statement of interest. And also, on your CV, whatever your experience is, or if you've done a cert here or a course there, put all of that on your CV so that we can see what you have done, where your continuous development has come from. Okay, 2 seconds now.
And we just have a question there about the industry projects, Jane, so I might answer that.
Yes.
If that's okay. In Module 1, the host projects are assigned as you work with a real business. And certainly though, if you came onto the course and you had a connection with a business in the locality who may want to be involved as a host, we'd be more than happy to hear from them and put them in as consideration for a project may or may not be taken on board. And then for modules 2 and 3, you get to choose what you base your project, your main assignments on. And so you can apply that to, say, for example, a business that you're involved in. And so that would be your choice. But they would be individual projects then.
Excellent. I actually had answered that other question privately. So, and we have another one. If COVID restrictions are eased later in the year, will there be in-person classes? We have designed the course at this stage to be delivered fully online, and that's in line with government guidance and Trinity directives on the whole social distancing. Would we like for people to get together? Absolutely, and we'd love to show you our space. We're very proud of our space, but at this stage, again, we just can't confirm if we're going to do that. It would be outside of the class times likely, and it would be something that we would do, if we could do it, it would just be an extra date. But for the moment, it's going to be delivered 100% online. Now, just looking back here at the chat. Yes, the COVID payment is recognised, so you can upload that. What I would say is that if you are still on that payment and you are awarded a place in the course, you need to let us know at the time of you accepting. And if you do accept and you're on that payment, then you are eligible to pay the 10% fee. That's how that works. If your status changes and you're on job seekers, then you wouldn't pay that 10%. But yeah. So you do need the reference letters. They are absolutely as important as every other document. They need to be 2 reference letters, either 1 academic, 1 professional, or 2 professional, and they should be on headed paper. And they should recommend you for the course as opposed to a reference you got from a job maybe 5 years ago. They should be applicable to this course. If you've missed a place in Dublin, could you transfer to Wexford if it wasn't full? Potentially, yes. Yes, potentially. So we would have to wait and see. As I say, preference may be given to the Wexford region, to people living around that region. But if it wasn't full, then yeah, we would probably look at that. Yeah. No problem at all. If there's any more questions, keep them coming. We'll stay on for another few minutes anyway. So if anybody has anything to ask in the next few minutes, we'll hang on for a little bit before we finish up. Again, I am available for any questions if you want to go away and think about it, or you want to read up on the program information on Springboard. And if there's something that's not clear to you, give me a call or send me an email, and I will be back in touch with you. Ideally, within a day or so. So Colm, there's a question for you here. Is your career now in consultancy? And if so, can you say how the course supported you in moving this direction?
It is. It's actually strange that the project that I won recently isn't actually consultancy. It's more web design, believe it or not. But my intention is for the kind of core base functionality that I'll be doing would be consultancy and training, specialized in a particular area, which is production planning and supply chain, because that's where I've got my 20+ years experience in, and my master's and all the previous qualifications. So that's what I would be focused on. How did this course help that? Well, first of all, it gave me the confidence to look at it and see, well, what are the supports that are out there? I honestly would say I had heard of LEO, the local enterprise offices, but I didn't have a clue what they did. Since I've been on this course, and it was actually through people that were on the class with me, I found out about the training services that they're providing. So even before I had gone out on my own, I had actually been on 1 or 2 of the LEO training courses about how to set up a business locally, and the online trading vouchers and things like that. So the course helped me to know what all the different functions were there in the state to help you, because it covers the local enterprise office, but also covers things like New Frontiers and the funding arrangements, how to set up a company, how to do all of that in terms of making sure the legalities are covered, accountancy, and making sure that you're keeping track of your records. Setting up a business is expensive, particularly when you've got no income coming in at the beginning, and really you should probably budget for very little to come in over the first year. And that's something that wasn't, people don't expect that and don't know that, but having sat through some of the lectures in module 3, when we were looking at tech companies that are started up and realized that, it is really a struggle for the founders for the first year. So I knew what I was getting into when thanks to this course, but also the support network. And I know there was a question asked about would the module be, any classes be moved online, in person? And as Jane said, probably not because of the COVID restrictions. But I would strongly advise that you link up with the group and you try to have your own meetings online, because that bond will be created by actually, not physically being, in a pub like we used to be, but even just sitting down in a socially distanced environment and chatting and having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or, a pint if the pubs ever reopen, and bonding like that. And then you will find that the networks you make in there are invaluable, because I'm still in touch regularly with a couple of people I did the course with, and I get guidance from them and tips, and this is coming up or that's coming up, and the same thing that I give to them. So that's how it helped as well, by building up my network. And you'll find that the startup network in Ireland is very helpful and is very supportive. You've got this image that they're all kind of highfalutin Silicon Valley types, because that's what's often portrayed in the media, but they're not. They're very down to earth. If you go into something like Grow Remote, you can get onto a Slack group, and you'll see the discussions there about people who are just trying to start up businesses and get going and support each other. So this course led me to access and be aware of all of those supports, both formal and informal. And then in terms of the actual other two startups that I have, again, it was the process of that. And one of those startups came out of a hackathon that we had, not that Tangent had, but that I found out about through Tangent. I found out about it on one of the Tangent TV sessions, and the Techstars hackathon that was held in March, I think it was, or April. The time all flies because of COVID. So we actually have gone from an idea in that hackathon to actually being in New Frontiers within the space of a few months. I would have none of those experiences if it wasn't for the course.
Thanks, Colin. I might direct this next one to you, Jess. Do you foresee group work being more challenging as participants won't be working in person?
So this is a great question. Thank you, Marianne, for it. I'm sorry now that I hear an echo. I'm just going to pop my headphones in case other people hear that. Just a second.
Now, that should be better. This is something I've thought about a lot as a psychologist, and I've been kind of teaching online now for probably as long as I've been teaching in this program, probably 4 years or so. And actually the answer is no, which surprised me. And I think the reason is that I think group work is somewhat easier online because there's nowhere to hide. In an in-person situation where everybody's in a classroom, it's very, very easy for somebody to disengage, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, or, oh, I'm late for this, and oh, I have to leave early today, all that kind of stuff. When something difficult comes up, or maybe there's a disagreement in the group, it's very, very easy for somebody to disengage. Online, I think people have to force themselves to communicate more clearly. People have to define the rules of engagement very quickly when you're working online, and so therefore actually so far it's been really, really smooth. And I think another thing that's happened as well, just specifically with doing group work online during the pandemic, is that people have really enjoyed the space online. It's been a little bit of a break from all the rest of everything that's going on, and they've really, really enjoyed the few hours that they get to come together and think about solving problems as a group. And in a strange way, I think it's helped a lot of teams. It's spurred a lot of teams on to really give the effort required to generate really, really interesting solutions. But also we do recognize that a group coming together for the first time, having not met each other before, and being asked to work on problems together is difficult to do online. So we design around that, right? So we spend a lot of time with trying to understand what shared values might be within the team. One of the exercises we ask people to do is identify somebody that they all admire. So when you're put into your group for the first time, that's the very first thing we'll ask you to do. Who do you all admire? Who can you all agree on that you all admire? And it's a really, really interesting one to do in a group of new people, because you're forced into quite a deep conversation quite quickly, and it uncovers some of your values. And you know, your values are kind of what will drive your decisions and how you go about solving problems together. So I hope that kind of answers your question. I don't want to eat into the rest of the time for other questions that we have, but great question. And hopefully I'll get to meet you again if you're successful in applying for the course.
Thanks, Jess. We had one other question: when should you expect to hear back from Trinity? So for this course, as I mentioned there, the application deadline is the 3rd of September for those in receipt of the level 8, and the 27th of August for RPL candidates. It's not going to be until after the 3rd of September, because we have to wait until we have all applications in before we can start notifying people of the outcome. So sometime not too long after the 3rd of September would probably be the time you would hear.
And there is one more question in the Q&A box about whether the course is usually oversubscribed. So just because I was on last year, I can say that we were full for all 4 cohorts last year. And if you remember last year, the beginning of the program was in person. So it was necessary for the people to be able to attend in Cavan, Longford, Tipperary and Waterford, whereas effectively now it's open to everyone in Ireland. So I would expect there should probably be more competition for places this year.
I can say that I'm already seeing a lot of applications come in for this course. So if you're thinking of applying, apply early. Don't leave it until, you know, a few days before the deadline. Do it early, because it's easier for me to manage. It's easier for us to manage, but also it just means that the job is done. Those 5 or those 6 documents are in. They can be uploaded. You know, you don't have to wait till you have all 5 or 6 to upload. You can upload the ones you have and then add the rest next week when you have them. But do try to get your full application in as soon as you can. I do think this course may be oversubscribed. It looks that way at this point. Can you apply for 2 courses with tangent? That's a good question, Aisling. So we have a couple of Springboard courses. Obviously, there's the 3 regions for this particular course, but we also have a postgraduate in creative and cultural entrepreneurship and a postgraduate in creative thinking, innovation and entrepreneurship. What I would say is that technically there's nothing stopping you from applying to the multiple courses, but I nearly wouldn't recommend it, because the selection committee want to see that you are interested in a particular course, and this is why you're right for this course. You should show your suitability for that particular course, why that course is right for you, why you're right for that course. Applying for multiple courses isn't necessarily going to improve your chances of getting a place. But there's nothing stopping you from doing so, but we would like to think that there is a particular course that you want to do, and to demonstrate the reasons why you want to do it, and not just why you want to do it, what you're going to do after the course. That's something to consider as well in your application. Why do you want to do this particular course? What do you hope to do after the course? Again, it's something that the selection committee will look at when they're reviewing your application. No problem, Aisling. Thank you for the question. So Robert is asking, do you think realistically is it possible to take this course if you're also enrolled in a second course? So if you cannot be enrolled in 2 Springboard courses at one time, that is for sure. And even if you've just finished a Springboard course, if the results haven't all gone out to you and your status hasn't been updated as completely finished and successful on Springboard, you also can't enroll on another course. So Springboard like to give preference to people who have never done a Springboard course before. If it's not a Springboard course, you might clarify that, Robert, but it might be an issue if it is. Yeah. It's a Springboard course, yeah. So you really have to be fully finished and done with one course before you can apply for the other. And that generally takes a couple of months after you've done the course. So Colin may be at a stage now that he could do another one, having finished his in April, but it does take about 4 to 6 months, depending on how long it takes to get the results through the Board of Examiners and back to the student.
Yeah, and my Springboard applications have actually opened up again, so
okay, good.
So that's for another course actually.
Yeah.
But what I would say in terms of if anybody else is in a similar situation to Rob, and I know he's saying that now that it's Springboard, but if somebody has a job that it takes up a lot of time, or has is doing a course or commitments, you do have to look and see, can you give the time that you need to do this course? And as I said, you get out of what you put into it. But everybody that was on the course with me, almost everybody, either had a job or was self-employed, and we're busy. There was one guy who was going up and down. He worked in archaeology on building sites. So at one point he was going up and down to Dundalk, I think it was, a Drogheda from near to Prairie Town every day. So that's a huge commitment for him, but he was still able to do it. So it really is a case of you'll have to make choices about how you spend your free time, because if you're busy in work and busy with other courses, you'll have limited free time. But if you want to prioritize this for that free time, you'll be able to do it. But you have to make sure you prioritize this for what free time you've got available then.
Thanks, Robert. Okay, we'll give it another couple of minutes, guys, and then we might finish up. So if there's any final questions, put them into the chat or the Q&A. And thanks so much for your attention and your time this evening, both to everybody on our panel, but also to our attendees. It's really great to see so many of you here, and I hope you got something out of it. It's also going to be recorded. If anybody wants to watch it back or forward it to a friend or an interested party, you can do that as well.